How did the Nepalese identity forge? Was it based on the conquests of Shri Prithvi Narayan Shah? Or is it something that's a myth? Look, the Nepalese identity is not a myth. It is definitely a real thing. Now let's examine the history of Nepal. First of all, let's go to the map and just try and understand the geography before we get into the history. Because I always, I'll tell you that, the map explains a lot. So let's take a look at the map, and we're going to the northern part of India, Nepal, beyond the northern part of India, Kathmandu. So if you look at the geography of Nepal, I mean, it's not really visible here unless we. Okay, even if I put the satellite image, you may get a better idea, perhaps. So you see, the southern part of Nepal is called the Tarai region, the plains, and it's a pretty large region. And about half of Nepal's population lives in the Tarai region, and the people who live in the Tarai region of Nepal are essentially more or less identical as the people of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Same people. Then you have the Pahad region, the hills of Nepal, which is the major part of Nepal, and that's where mainly the Pahadi people, the Gorkha people live. Kathmandu is the center, obviously the capital, and that's where the political power lies in Nepal, in the Pahad region. And then you have the northern regions, which is the Himalayan regions, where you have other people who live, and that borders Chinese occupied Tibet. So that is the geography of Nepal, and the center of power has always resided in the uh, Kathmandu region for quite a long time. So that is just briefly the geography of Nepal. Now, if you look at the history, yes, Prithvi Narayan Shah was, you can consider him to be the founder of the kingdom of Nepal. If you look at the history of Nepal, going back 2,500 years, let's say, okay, let's not go back too far, only 2,500 years. So Nepal was part of at least a couple of Mahajanapadas of the ancient period, the present day region of Nepal. You had the Vriji Mahajanapad. Okay, it was located north of the Ganga, and it extended all the way into the Pahad region, the present day region of Nepal. And the capital was Vaishali, right? So, and the Vriji Confederacy, it included dynasties like the Lichavi dynasty, and they have historically been connected with Nepal. And, I think at least one branch of the Lichavi dynasty ruled Nepal until the start of, I don't know, this second millennium AD, right? So that's the Lichavi dynasty, and I think it was Chandragupta of the Gupta dynasty who married a Lichavi princess, and that elevated his status. And I mean, it really made a difference for him. So that's how highly regarded the Lichavi dynasty was. So Nepal, much of Nepal was at one point in time part of the Vriji or Vajji Mahajanapad. Then some parts of Nepal were also part of the Kosala Mahajanapada's territory. Okay, parts of southern Nepal, the Tarai region. So the Lichavi dynasty was very prominent in Nepal, and they ruled all the way up to the at least the 9th or 10th centuries AD, possibly in the second millennium AD also. And Nepal was obviously part of the Mauryan Empire. Okay, as Magad rose and extended its power everywhere, well, much of Nepal became incorporated into the Magad, sorry, the Maurya Empire. I'm sure it was part of the Kushan Empire also, and also part of the Gupta Empire. I'm pretty sure about that. So there you have it. Now, when it comes to Prithvi Narayan Shah, um, he conquered the Nevar Valley, also called the Nepal Valley, in 1768. So he was the king of the Gorkha dynasty. And he was not the founder. The founder, I forget the name of the founder. You can look it up. The founding of the dynasty happened a couple of centuries before Prithvi Narayan Shah's conquest of the Newar Valley. And Prithvi Narayan Shah was the greatest king of this dynasty, and he expanded his kingdom, and that's what became Nepal. In Nepal, the British Raj never incorporated it into the British Raj because they wanted it to remain a buffer state between British occupied India and Tibet, where there was some hints of Chinese uh, involvement. So they wanted a buffer. They wanted to keep the Chinese away because the Chinese were trying to interfere in Tibet. Uh, so Nepal as a separate entity, as a distinct entity, emerges around 1768. with the establishment of this kingdom, or an expansion of the kingdom by Shri Prithvi Narayan Shah. And ever since that time, it's been a distinct entity, distinct political entity, a distinct state, and it has remained that. So that is essentially the birth of the Nepalese identity as a separate identity. That's around the time of Shri Prithvi Narayan Shah. Hope that explains the matter.